Joining us this morning is former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who is set to be inducted into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. She's here to talk about that and a few other things that we just mentioned.
A few other things that we could see had a reaction to.
Good morning.
It's good to see you.
Congratulations.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
How is it being out of the public eye and watching these news stories as an observer now? Difficult?
Well, look, I call myself Private Citizen Lightfoot for a reason. I am happy to be out of the fray. Obviously, I still care deeply about my city, the school system, but it's important for me to remain silent in public because I think it's not helpful for me as a recently former mayor to be weighing in publicly on the events of the day. I obviously have strong opinions about many of these topics and a lot of familiarity with them, but look, I just hope that we get to a place where across the board on every issue, there's stability, civility, and that people are able to come together because that's what residents want. That's what the voters want. They don't want to see a bunch of mud being thrown left and right because that doesn't, frankly, advance the ball or accomplish anything.
As the first LGBT mayor, did you feel that you were judged differently?
I don't, look, I think I was judged differently because I was a woman and because I was a woman of color. I think my status as a member of the LGBTQ plus community actually helped. Think about the fact that I was elected in 2019 but for some issues with my opponent, there was no issue with the voters. I think that speaks highly of where we are as a city, where we continue to be. But if you look at what's happened over the last few years, particularly on a national front, our community is under attack. And so it's important for me and others who have the benefit of a voice and a platform to continue advocating for the freedom, for equity and equality for our community so we can embrace and enjoy the full vestiges of citizenship, which many people, unfortunately, now want to deny us.
The Village of Dalton brought you in this situation with the investigation of Mayor Tiffany Henyard. You saw that story we ran beforehand. What was the result of your investigation, and are they using that information? What's happening there, and what's your reaction?
So that investigation is still very much ongoing. We're in the final stages, and I hope to get it wrapped up and publicly disclosed sometime during the month of October. But really, that's going to depend on what the trustees want and how they want to handle things going forward. Not surprisingly, because of her dual roles, you will see when we issue our final report that there's commentary on what's been happening in Thornton Township as well. So nothing that I'm seeing being disclosed, frankly, surprises me. And we've been in conversations with people in Thornton Township, and I think I'm happy to see that they also are stepping up and trying to pull back the reins of government and rein in the spending.
Well, on that note, let me ask you a question about Chicago in a different way, whether it's schools or crime. It always seems money is at the center of that. What do you think about the idea that some have of borrowing more money to solve these problems?
Well, I think that would put me directly in the fray where I don't want to be. But what I'll say is this. I don't think anybody will forget that making sure that our finances were in order was a huge priority for me. We faced a number of budgetary challenges, some decades in the making, some as a result of COVID. But we left office with a $500 million surplus, 13 credit upgrades, and I think great standing as fiscal fiduciaries for the taxpayers of the city. So you can imagine what I'm thinking about, something that potentially puts the finances on a much, much worse footing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much directly you want to comment on. Obviously, when you were in office, there was a teacher strike. There were battles with the Chicago Teachers Union. What are your thoughts on Pedro Martinez sticking around? Can you comment on any of that, your reaction to how it's being handled?
Well, look, again, I'm not going to get into the particulars. I have very strong feelings about that. Obviously, I'm the person who recommended and nominated Pedro Martinez to the Board of Education. Here's what I will say. If you look back over the last 10 years, this school district has had a revolving door of CEOs. That doesn't help anything. Stability is critically important. Getting the finances in order is critically important. But first and foremost, what I always thought as mayor, what I think as a private citizen, is what is in the best interest of our children. That isn't being covered in the stories. What do the students need and think? What do the parents want? You know this, that when people think about whether or not they want to come to a city or stay in a city, one of the first questions they ask is, how is the public school system? Providing a model of academic excellence, providing a model of stability, both in terms of programmatic, education, and finances, is what we as a city have to be about.
So to your point, it's horrible that some schools don't have librarians in the city and so on.
Look,
we can go down the list,
yeah.
but do you raise taxes or do you borrow money?
Look, I'm not going to get into what the solutions are. I think that what I know is in a democracy, people have to come together and compromise.
All right. Well, are you missing being mayor?
Look, there are some
Are you
things that-
enjoying being a private citizen?
I'm enjoying having my life back and
Yeah.
spending more time with my wife and my daughter. And there's lots of different ways in which, as a private citizen, I can have impact, and I'm doing that in my time, helping support neighborhood organizations. But I don't miss the
Us.
You don't miss
noise.
us.
I'm
You
not
can
gonna-
say it.
I'm not going to say that, but I don't miss a lot of the things that come with being a high-profile elected
Yeah.
official.
I bet. Well, it's nice to see you. Congratulations. The annual Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame induction ceremony will be Thursday, October 1st at the Chicago History Museum. For more information, you can visit chicagolgbthalloffame.org. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Hey, Paul.